At Achieve Emotional Mastery, we know that you want to be an overcomer. We know how exhausting it is to manage anxiety and depression and what you need to do to be able to overcome completely. I also know that as you watch our videos, and maybe you've even taken time to watch the masterclass, that you may be wondering if this is possible for you. You may be wondering if this is real. And so I have invited Michelle and Michael, who are graduates of Achieve Emotional Mastery, to share their story of transformation. Michelle was able to overcome anxiety and depression, and both of them broke the trauma cycle and was able to heal from past traumas that they experienced. They're going to share with us exactly what that trauma looked like for them, what anxiety and depression caused in their life and in their marriage, and also share how they were able to break through and overcome completely. But thank you, Michael and Michelle, for being here today. So excited to talk to you guys. I want to share your transformation. You guys have had just an amazing success story. And so I want to just invite you in today to talk about all that's happened. And so it's been a little while since you guys graduated, a little bit. And so we're definitely going to go back to the beginning and take a look at where you guys started with anxiety and depression. And of course, talk about where you guys are now, just offering our audience inspiration for their journey so that they can step up and change their lives. And so, Michelle, I'm going to start with you and just ask if you would share, what were you struggling with before we started working together?
I was struggling with a couple of things. Pretty debilitating depression, very debilitating anxiety, insomnia, a lot of fear, and even a little bit of PTSD.
Okay. Okay. Would you give me a distinction there? Because I know that you describe it as debilitating. However, you were working, you were showering, you were taking care of your daughter. So you were functioning, you were high functioning.
Yes.
But yet to you, it felt debilitating, right?
Yes.
So what part about it felt like it was debilitating?
Yeah, no, that's a really good distinction because I would consider myself very high functioning. In fact, so high functioning that people outside of my immediate household would not know that I struggled like this at all. None of my colleagues, none of my, acquaintances. So for me, it was debilitating because it affected my household, my immediate household, but it was like I was in like a prison in my mind completely. I was in bondage in my own mind, and I couldn't break free of that at all, and it affected just everything. Everything.
Yeah, thank you for clarification. And I know that when we initially talked, Michelle, it was okay, this is your struggle, and of course, Michael, I invite you in right away because I do work with couples. But immediately you were very open about this is very much your struggle too. So where were you at when before we started?
Yeah, I think for me, stress has always been something that affects me. When we first started, I think you'd asked me a question and I described myself. I feel like I just have this weight on me all the time. I'll walk around.
Yes.
I walk around with this weight of stress from just all the different things that I have to do and take care of, and our trauma that we had been through fairly recently.
Right.
When we first came to you, there was some depression with that, but it wasn't nearly to the extent that like Michelle was experiencing, for example.
Yeah. Thank you.
I was sort of down.
Okay. I remember very clearly the word that you used was an emotional weighted blanket.
I did. I was trying to remember exactly what I said, but now yes, I did say that.
Yeah, and I was like, and that's really stuck with me. I've used that to help other people understand, because it's such a great description of how you feel. You're weighted down. You're always carrying it. Like if you've ever sat under a weighted blanket, after a little while, you're like, get this thing off of me, because it's just heavy. And again, that's how you describe walking around all the time, was carrying this weight.
Right.
So obviously for you, Michael, you were managing very well, even though stress, but still affecting you inside. And how was it for you, just as a husband who loves his wife, supporting her every day in your marriage as she dealt with anxiety and depression?
Well, it was awful. I mean, it's awful seeing the person that you care most about struggle, and you do what you can to help, but you come to a realization at some point that you can't fix all of her
Mm,
problems, and you're not supposed to be able to fix all of your spouse's problems. And
mm,
that's something that I had to learn
wow.
and to help where I can, and defer to others or to God where I can,
Mhm.
where I can't.
Hmm. Hmm. Thank you. I think for both of you, the humility of just going, hey, I don't have what I need to fix this is what allowed you both to have such an amazing breakthrough. So just thank you for drawing that out. So what, again, going back to like kind of the beginning, what tools were you guys using to manage to get through?
Um, for my anxiety and depression, and to kind of work through some like PTSD that I had, I was doing, therapy, counseling. I had tried that. I
Mhm.
had tried like a group therapy. I had tried medication. Um,
Okay,
at different points in my life, I had tried,
sure.
different things. I wasn't always consistently on it, but if I felt myself getting bad, I would, try it and eventually get off of it. And, so I did
Okay,
try that.
yeah.
Um, I just tried, a church group. I mean, tried a lot of different things. Those are the things that pop into my head first.
Sure, sure. And about how, so what I'm hearing there is like it was a longer time. So about how long do you think you were dealing with anxiety and depression before we started working together?
Oh, probably a really long time. But I will say that starting at the beginning of 2018, all the way like for the next 2.5 years, 3 years,
Hmm.
was some of the hardest years we've ever walked in our entire life.
Hmm.
We were just, I mean, right when we would come up out of the wave would pummel us back down again.
Wow.
And it was, I could not, like, my mind just got that prison in my mind that I'm talking about. Like, it would just get darker and darker and darker and darker every time that would happen. So,
Okay.
mhm.
Those are, yeah, the most intense years.
Yeah,
I want to highlight one of the things that you just described, which was that we get out and then another
yeah,
wave would hit. And I do remember our very first conversation where we talked about that of what I'm hearing is that you guys were stuck in a trauma cycle.
yeah.
And one of
Oh,
the
yeah.
things that we're
Oh,
going to
yeah.
do is show you guys how to break that. But
Yeah,
when I see this, and I see it with clients all the time, they just, yeah, something happens. Okay, then we're okay. We're okay for a little bit. And then another
yeah,
trauma happens. And they just can't break the cycle as and stop more trauma from happening. And you guys had some very like, just, and we'll probably talk about that in a minute, but just trauma after trauma in your life. Um, so so again, I just wanted to highlight that idea of finally breaking the trauma cycle. So let's come to a happier part of this conversation. So how would you guys describe yourselves now? So Michelle, what's happening now? Like how are you doing now with this?
well, I'm sleeping better.
Yes.
Even with a brand new baby, I mean,
Oh,
no,
come
you
on.
don't
I love
understand how
that.
huge that is, though.
That's
I mean,
huge.
it's
That's
huge. It
huge.
affected my whole life. Yeah, sleeping better, so insomnia,
Yeah.
which
So
is
insomnia.
directly related to anxiety.
Yeah.
So it's like quieting the mind, you know.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I mean that's huge, especially with a new baby.
Especially with a new baby. And I love that because that's like a challenging time anyway, just naturally. Hey, new babies bring on a new dynamic. So I love that sleep is more regular.
Yes.
That's good.
Yes.
That's very good. That's very good. What else? So what are other kinds of things you're noticing?
My relationship with the Lord is deeper and better and richer.
That's good.
I feel like my relationships with other people are
Yes.
richer. I this is pretty personal to admit, but I don't have those super dark thoughts that I was having. Um,
Yeah.
like super dark.
Wow.
So that would almost scare me to have.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I
those
would
are,
love to add, thank
Yeah.
you for being vulnerable
yeah,
with that. Because again, man, when you come from a position of strong faith, it can be super embarrassing to even admit that those types of thoughts are happening. And it can make you question your faith and all of those things. So Michelle, I really appreciate you being vulnerable to go, hey, that was happening and that's not happening anymore. For you, Michael, what did you maybe notice about Michelle that's different now?
Well, I noticed that she was getting a lot more sleep, and that was affecting her in a positive way, and her mood throughout the day and in the morning
Yeah,
especially. Not as much stress and anxiety because she wasn't as tired.
yeah.
I noticed that she was just doing better with her anxiety and her having these anxious thoughts, and that would lead to some depression. And so it's gotten a lot better.
Good. How did it change conversation? Like, because if Michelle's worried and she's bringing it over to your table, like, did it shift your conversations that you were having?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, it's natural as a couple when you're experiencing trauma to just kind of talk about that trauma all the time and fixate on it. And so for us,
Yeah.
I've noticed that we are not as consumed with those traumatic experiences
Right.
and the things that are causing us
Mm.
anxiety and stress. I mean, you're always gonna have things that cause you some level of anxiety
Sure.
or stress, but we're not ruminating on those things
yeah,
like we
that's
used
true.
to.
This is very true. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good distinction. And how would you describe yourself now as well, Michael? So I know you also put in the healing work and had a huge shift.
Right.
So how would you describe yourself now?
Yeah, I mean, I don't carry this emotional weighted blanket around anymore that I used to.
Yeah, give it
I'm
away, yard sale.
right, yeah. I'm
Yeah.
better able to deal with this stress that I do experience.
Yeah.
And I didn't have issues with insomnia, but I had a lot of broken sleep. I would wake up just
Okay.
all the time throughout the night, so I would never really feel that rested.
Mhm.
That has pretty much ceased.
Except for the baby.
Yeah, except for the baby.
Well, yeah.
But outside
Forced
of that,
broken sleep.
yeah,
Right. But not because of you, but hey,
Yeah.
baby's calling on you. That's good.
outside of
That's
that,
really
I
good.
feel like I'm sleeping really well, and I'm eating better and feeling.
Yeah.
I have more
Oh, yeah.
energy. Uh,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
just
More energy.
overall healthier.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
we didn't even mention that part of it, is that, I mean, our whole, we were always big exercisers because we're fitness instructors
Yes.
and trainers, but the way that we look at food and the way that we cook for our children, it's 180,
Changed.
not a
Yeah.
180. We were pretty healthy, but we've maintained
Yeah.
that very, very, very well. And it makes a huge difference.
Yeah. So again, you guys came out of a strong fitness background, still there, right? In the fitness world. How did that, because so many people I find go that direction to try to manage the anxiety. I had someone just get started that's running like 7 miles a day just to keep the anxiety in check, right?
Yeah.
So what was the motivation there with fitness, or that's just always been like, were you guys using it as a tool to try to curb what was happening
Yes.
emotionally?
Absolutely. And I cannot believe that I did not mention that when you asked me what I have used, because that is my number one.
Okay.
With exercise, I mean, I teach so many different classes. Exercise, when I feel restless and anxious in my soul and I feel like I'm going to jump out of my body, exercise is such a huge, huge tool for me to calm down, change my brain chemistry, really just, get those endorphins going. And it quite literally turns my entire day around. It's a vital tool for healing. But exercise, you have to, you don't want to over exercise either. You want to maintain,
Yeah. Well, what I want to make sure is, again, just like we were talking about before, is like, it's just one part of the puzzle, right?
Exactly. Oh, absolutely.
You had that part.
Yes.
You had that part of the puzzle locked in tight, but still managing the anxiety, still managing the depression until we put all the pieces together. So let's talk a little bit about some of the past trauma, if you don't mind me just opening up that, just because I feel like, again, so many of our clients will personally resonate to your story. So when you guys came to me initially, part of the trauma was around miscarriages.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I know that you guys had done healing work prior to coming into this room, right? It wasn't like you had ignored that. You guys had done work to try to heal from that trauma, but still it was feeding the anxiety and depression, and probably was one of the biggest things we worked on during our time together.
At
yes?
that time, yes.
Yeah. What I saw was that not only did you guys need to heal emotionally from what happened, but physically for you, Michelle, that there was some healing there to be able to first conceive again, but then to be able to bring a baby to full term, which now the baby they keep mentioning is the triple rainbow baby. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
And
So
I'm looking at him on the monitor sleeping right now. Yes.
Yes. So what was that like to finally have this place that had caused you both so much, I don't even know what the word is.
Sorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, amongst a bunch of other trauma, we did suffer 3 miscarriages, 2018, 2019, and 2020. And the last one was in June of 2020, and then we started with you in September of 2020. And it was just a devastating time in our life. I mean, without going into a lot of detail, it just wrecked us. And you know, we had a daughter too, and we were dealing also with autoimmune disorders of our daughter.
Right.
And it's been a long road, but going back to the miscarriages, I kind of feel like we were just really losing hope. We were really losing hope.
Yeah.
And I was in tremendous fear of moving forward. But I just knew that our family wasn't complete, but I was in fear and I was completely stuck and I felt completely paralyzed. So when we started working with you, I mean, everything changed. Literally everything changed. Not continuing to perpetuate this trauma cycle that we had been in, expecting something different this time instead of expecting loss.
That's good.
And wouldn't you know, in December at Christmas, we're pregnant. And we found out on New Year's Day.
Yeah.
And it was like the start of something new. And it was just a wonderful pregnancy. There was, no complications. And it was just, I don't even know how to describe it. I mean,
Well, what I want to ask about that is,
go ahead.
I was so happy that you guys were in the room at that time when you guys were pregnant, because you're still in the room. And in that moment, this is the 4th pregnancy. What comes up? Like, what were your thoughts? It was like, yay. And then like, what's the fear that comes up in that moment, and all the emotions that come up?
We were deathly afraid of having loss again. We were super afraid that our daughter would never have a sibling when that was our greatest heart's desire. We thought maybe it was too late. We didn't know what was wrong. And all these thoughts, what if this, what if that, what if this, just went racing through our heads.
Yeah. I was so glad that you guys were in the room at that time, because at that time you had the tools. You guys had already overcome anxiety and depression. There was hope, which is why the baby came, which is why the baby was conceived, right? Because there was new hope there. But then, and it's normal to be like, and just to have that inhale for a minute. But again, you guys had the tools, you guys knew what to do. And I was so glad that we still be able to go like, yes, let's declare good things, and all the things that we talk about. And you guys have learned to just cement that of going, this time it's different.
Right.
but on so many levels. Like that's the amazing thing that's really hard to explain, is that on so many levels, this pregnancy was very different, because you both were amazingly different. Like just the feeling that you'd already gone through, the hope that you guys experienced, the joy that you had, the peace that you had, to very quickly go into a place of, I remember you guys, okay, this is a normal pregnancy, right? We had to work on, hey, this is a normal pregnancy, and just to continue on. And of course,
absolutely,
baby is here now.
Yep, it was God's promises. And so I would always go back to, what does God promise? You know, what does his word say about this? And, you know, those became my affirmations and my declarations, especially when walking into an ultrasound or an appointment. And then, you know, you have a, you know, you walk in and, you know, every time we just got good news. And it was like,
good.
I mean, I can't tell you what it felt like to hear that heartbeat at 6.5 weeks. Like it.
Yeah.
You know, okay, God, this time's different, you know?
Yeah, that's good. And Michael, for you, what are your thoughts, or anything you'd like to add about just your journey here?
It's just been amazing. It's been life-changing for, I think, for each one of us, and for us together collectively in our marriage. Just coming from a situation where we were just consumed with sorrow and just weighted down, and I think, like Michelle said, we just felt like we had no hope, which is a terrible place to be in. You just feel like the next day is going to be the same crappy day or worse. And we just don't have that mindset anymore. And we're thriving with our little family, and doing what we can to keep moving forward and taking the challenges as they come.
That's good. That's good. Thank you. Thank you. So for you, Michelle, what was your biggest shift in your mindset overall throughout this process?
I would think that anytime I was like going through a hard time, it was like, okay, let me give you an example. Recently, you can sometimes confuse depression with grief.
Yes.
And that has been a huge learning experience for me, is not confusing grief, natural grief that we're going through over losses, you know, stuff with our daughter, and confusing it for deep, dark depression. There is a difference. And that has been a huge mindset shift for me, is that, you know, grief does not equal depression, you know?
That's good.
So I hope that answered your question. That is the first thing that just popped in my head.
It does. I have so much I want to say about that, but I'd reserve all that for our room. But there's so many, because there is a distinction, and how you handle each one of those is different.
Right.
And so that's great, because what I'm hearing there, and again, if you don't know the distinction and you're actually grieving, it's like you keep trying to fix it, where it's like, hey, you need to grieve. You need to grieve.
You got to go through that.
And that looks different than breaking depression, than overcoming and lifting depression. It's different. That's good.
And another thing really that I should mention is also, I've learned that just because something runs in your family, depression, anxiety, bipolar, okay, just because it does, and it does in my family, does not mean that you cannot break off those ties in Jesus' name. Like you can.
It's good.
You can stop that in your family, so it does not continue on down your line.
That's good.
So just because it's in your family does not mean that you cannot break it off in your life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm testament as well. Absolutely. Good. Thank you, Michelle. That's good. And for you, Michael, so same question. What's one of the biggest shifts that happened for you in your mindset?
I think one of the biggest shifts for me was just simply leaving behind the mindset or the belief that things are really hard. They're going to be really hard tomorrow. And that's just the way it is. So deal with it. And I think that I walked around believing that for a long time. I mean, I just, to the point where I just expected the next wave was going to come. And so I would kind of prepare myself mentally ahead of time, so I wouldn't be shocked by it when it did come. And you just get into, I feel like we were just in this cycle. We were stuck in this cycle where we just expected that negative things were going to happen, and
Yeah.
that there just wasn't much to do about it other than to try to manage as best we could. And so that kind of gets back to what we mentioned before about just having this sort of belief of no hope. So
Right.
for me, I think that was the biggest thing, along with kind of a concurring shift of just the idea that I had that stress is normal and you just have to deal with it.
Right.
And it's always going to be that way. And so I've been able to shift and better handle that.
Yeah. Yeah. What are your beliefs now around stress?
Well, I believe that I don't have to walk around feeling stressed out, and that
That's good. That's good.
shoveling down stress is not the answer. Because that was my answer for my entire
Right.
life, was to just sort of bottle it up
Mm-hmm.
and deal with it. And so now
That's
I'm
good.
better able to let go a lot of that stress through prayer and my relationship with God.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, I that's one of the things, you guys know, you've heard me say it 100 times, right? I can't stop life from happening to you, but I can equip you to be able to breeze through life. Like that's the thing. That's the part that you want, is to be able to be emotionally well, even when. Um, but also when you're emotionally well, physically well, spiritually well, that stress doesn't have quite the same impact at all. Like it just doesn't have the same effect, negative effect, that it did previously.
Right.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So the next thing I want to ask about is just how you guys both showed up together. You guys are in the camp of most successful clients. Like, I always talk about what my most successful clients do, because I want everybody that comes through the process to be successful as well. And so there's certain markers. Success leaves clues, right? That's how we say it. Success leaves clues. And so I wanted to come back to, again, rewind back to the beginning. Okay. And highlight one of the things that stands out in my mind is how you guys showed up together at the beginning. From the beginning, we're in together. And so for you, Michelle, what was your thoughts around, because I know it was, you found me, watch the masterclass. Ooh, this is for me, right?
Yep.
But what was your thoughts around being so willing to have Michael to be part of the process right from the start?
Well, it helped that he was willing to do it, first of all.
Sure. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's true.
You have to be a willing participant.
Yeah.
He was, but honestly, it was so much better with him going through it with me, because number one, he got something out of it too. So it became not just about me needing to heal, but it also helped our marriage tremendously too, because we were doing it together and we were learning these things together. It helped tremendously.
That's good. That's good. So for you, Michael, what were your thoughts about going, being drug into this? What were your thoughts? They're like, hey, I need you to be a part of this breakthrough session. I need you to watch this masterclass. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I was very open to it, because by that point, I mean, we had sort of come to you limping together, and
Yeah.
and sort of exasperated, and we both felt, at least I know that I felt very defeated, and I believe she did too. And so at some point, you come to the realization that, well, we got to try something. I mean, this can't be our life. Like, we can't just keep doing this.
Surviving.
Surviving is not a life. And we wanted better for ourselves. We wanted better for our daughter at the time.
Yeah.
And so it was very easy for me to say, yeah, sure. I'll, tell me what I need to do.
Yeah.
Because clearly what we're doing right now is not working.
That's good.
So I was very open to trying something.
Great. Thank you for that, Michael. I also want to just bring up, and I find this is true for almost every single couple I've worked with, is that yes, in this situation, you're the supporting spouse, and sometimes that's the man, and sometimes that's a woman, it just depends. But as a supporting spouse, that you have your own trauma and your own healing that needs to happen, because it is, even without, like for you guys had separate trauma that you had experienced together. And so it's really obvious that you had healing that needed to happen as well. But even without that element, I find that every couple I work with, there's trauma in just supporting your wife or husband as they deal with an emotional health. I mean, again, it affects the marriage, it affects the kids, it affects conversations at home and kitchen and choosing dinner and all of it. And so there's healing that has to happen there. And so I just want to thank you, Michael, for being a willing part of it, of going, hey, I need some assistance, and really digging in. So probably one of my last questions is, what would you both say to someone who's watching, hearing your story, resonating, wanting freedom, but feeling a bit scared to step up and change your life? Like, what would be your encouragement to go, yes, reach out, watch the masterclass, get it done?
I would say just do it. But going in, you have to do the work. You have to do the work. So it is not a Band-Aid. You have to dive in, take the time with it, apply it to your life. You have to do the work in order to see the results.
That's good.
Yep.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
You, Michael? Yeah.
Just to reiterate that, you can't sit back and just watch. I mean, you have to do the work.
Right.
But it's worth it. It really is worth it. It's changed our lives, and I think that it has the power to change others' lives as well.
Right.
going
through this.
Thank you. Thank you. And I do want to acknowledge that the hard work. That was actually where I was going next, is to thank you both, because you both did. You really showed up for yourself. You fought. Again, it's your freedom, not mine. And yes, I walk with you guys through the process. I give you the tools to make sure you know everything you need to know. But if you guys don't apply it, if you guys don't actually put it into practice or do the heart work, the heart searching, the heart healing part, like nothing happens, nothing changes. And so I want to thank you guys, because man, from the moment, I mean, Michelle, I remember our breakthrough session, man, you showed up with page after page of notes. Like, these are all my notes on the masterclass.
That's me.
That's you. But you showed up that way. And that was one of the things that told me, hey, this is a good fit. Like, when I have somebody that shows up hungry like that for freedom, they're like, I need a breakthrough. And I've got 10 pages of notes on the masterclass alone, which is 45 minutes. Like, I'm like, I know we can win on this. I know we can break through, because if you guys show up with that kind of attitude through the process, of course you'll be successful. And that's exactly what you guys experienced, was just an amazing breakthrough and transformation. So again, thank you guys for just being here and vulnerable. And again, doing the work. It's been such a pleasure. Just such a pleasure seeing how far you guys have come. And every time we get to check in monthly to go, how you guys doing? And celebrations. I loved our last call, Michael, where you were just like, and this, and this, and this, and this, and life is good. And it was just fantastic. And so thank you guys again, just so much for being here and for sharing with us and inspiring others to finally overcome anxiety and depression for themselves.
Thank you,
Thank
Stacey.
you.
Again, I just want to thank Michael and Michelle for being here, for being vulnerable and sharing their journey of healing. I hope that it inspired you, that it is possible to heal, and it absolutely is possible to heal, but there is a process to it, just like Michelle and Michael shared with you, that there's work involved and there is a process, but we do lay it out step by step for you. And so if you are interested in finally overcoming anxiety, depression, and or bipolar disorder, and again, any one of those three, any combination of those three, that's what we do at Achieve Emotional Mastery. Again, there's a step-by-step process. And what I'd love to do is invite you to book a call with our team, so we can sit down and we can discuss your situation, what exactly is going on for you, and walk you through, again, the exact process necessary. After you book a call with our team, we'll send you some specific instructions to make sure you're fully in the know. At this point, you probably have watched the masterclass, but maybe you skipped that. And so we'll definitely send that to you to make sure that you take a look at that. And again, we would like to sit down with you and just discuss whether or not we're a good fit to help you finally overcome anxiety and depression. You can book a call with me by going to stacyrivera.com/call.